Okay, Fred, so I'm going to see how quickly I can respond here to your most recent response to me. This called the crappy end of the cake. And I didn't find too much difficulty your with your argument. I think the arguments again were very clear and I appreciate them. I think what I would say is I think it's interesting that cake and cherries are the two things that are being offered up as if suffering is involved in being deprived of the same amount of cake and cherries that other people have. Is that what it's about? Is it about deprivation? Is it about suffering and hardship? When I think historically, okay, now, I want to put this in a historical context. There is a sense in which right now, Fred, I completely agree. I mean, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair that some people have and other people don't. But sitting around on YouTube, pulling our chins, going, "Oh, this sucks and life stinks." I mean, it makes me wonder what the hell people are doing on YouTube. It makes me wonder what I'm doing on here. And again, I don't spend that much time on here, but it does make me wonder about the time that I do spend, thinking, couldn't there be other things that are more, other ways to spend time that are so much more valuable? And by that I mean time well spent in giving to others in need at various levels, in various ways. It could just be local, but it could be international. Okay, but the point here is this again, this notion of some people get more than other people get. Agreed. But from historical perspective, right now, many of the people who we would recognize as have-nots, at least in our local, maybe national ways, like people here in the United States who live at the poverty level, they, by historical standards, live better than some royalty lived. That is, they have access to fruits from around the world and they enjoy climate controlled environments in a way that's historically unprecedented. Right? They have at the click of a finger a entertainment that only emperors used to had to clap their hands to get entertainment. Now we have remote controls where people sit around, and these are people who aren't necessarily well-to-do. They may not have any health insurance, and they may rent a small house. But my guess is they still have some sorts of comforts and conveniences. Now, even if we try to give that argument and we start to manifest the good in the goods, and we're going to give some kind of argument like, well, some people have more cherries or better cherries or bigger cherries or cherries that aren't as rotten or they're fresher cherries. I mean, we could give it all kinds of ways, but that makes it seem like the quality of the cherry is in the cherry. What we need to study is this ironic human truth that there are some people who, even when they have cherries, are unhappy. They somehow, even in abundance, they feel as if their life doesn't have meaning, and there are other people who, with very little, seem satisfied. Now, that's not a philosophy of buck up, tighten your belt, and make the best of it. But the point is to both acknowledge, I think, what you're saying, that there is inequity, and let's try to fix that, but let's not, in our social programming of trying to fix the world by making sure that everyone has equal amounts of cake and cherries, that we're implying that the value is in the cake or in the cherry. Especially, these are really funny metaphors to pursue when it's not about avoiding beatings or suffering or real hardship. It's about keeping, I guess, the goods that people imagine they're entitled to from them. I mean, it's really kind of an interesting argument. Okay, the other thing I'm going to try to say really quickly here is that the age thing I thought was interesting, that you see that as a tragic story. Why is that so tragic? I want to know at what age are people supposed to grow up in this culture? At what age should people feel responsible to others? At what age should people feel as if they can make a meaningful contribution to the world? Have we done a disservice to the entire U.S. culture? See, I'm not sure what life is like by you, but I think our culture, we have pandered to young people. We have made it seem that they should sit around and parents will run them around and take care of them and give them this kind of idyllic childhood that's pampered and it doesn't have any responsibility. And then we say, oh, well, you can face those responsibilities when you get older. When you're older, you can own up to doing the kind of work that the world will call upon you. You know what? If people don't get asked to do great things when they're young, they may never believe in themselves. They have too thin a skin. I mean, it's sort of like this TJ Does Life video, which I really appreciated, the video that he did just a couple days ago, about there are some people who as much as politically you could agree with them, they have become thin-skinned little panderers. They don't know how to grab themselves and other people, I guess, sort of social policies and whip them into shape and take responsibility and ownership. And I think waiting till they're old or whatever that is, that's not going to help. I think this problem of at what age should people be responsible for, I don't know, realizing that they have a footprint, that they have to give back to the world, and that they have obligations because much that has been given to them. I mean, at what point does a person have to recognize that? And I don't think any of this has anything to do with people running around and hanging themselves and all this kind of stuff because their hardship. That was some story that you were giving. I mean, I don't know how that related at all. The question is, why are we that kind of animal that can be fed and have sleep and yet still be unhappy? Why is it that the persons that I know some people who've hung themselves, my guess is other people know that people who hung themselves. How many people do you know who have hung themselves because they were close to starving or the hardship was so bad, or was it a kind of problem of meaning? Where the value isn't in the valued stuff. That is, it wasn't a shortage of cherries that led to some sort of hanging. Again, I'm not really sure how that related, Fred. At any rate, thanks for the response, and hopefully that's some beginning of a dialogue. Okay, thanks.